Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're diving into a list of animals that would make the worst possible pets. And trust me, this is not your typical PSA.
It's interesting how this list, which comes from the top10s.com, it's a user-generated list called Top 10 Animals You Don't Want as Pets. It really makes you think about the ethics of keeping some animals in captivity.
Yeah, for sure. So the top of the list is full of creatures you definitely don't want to run into, let alone share your house with. I mean, we're talking Komodo dragons, lions, killer whales.
The Komodo dragon is not just big and strong, its saliva is actually venomous.
Really?
Yeah. And unlike snake venom, which is used for hunting Komodo dragon venom, prevents blood clotting, which leads to shock and eventually death in their prey.
Oh, wow. So it's not just the bite you got to worry about?
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole bunch of toxins.
Right.
I can't even imagine trying to walk one of those things. Talk about a dangerous dog walker.
Oh. And then there's the lion, the king of the jungle. Beautiful in the wild, but in your house. I mean, imagine the roar echoing through your neighborhood. These are apex predators with strong hunting instincts. A scratching post just isn't going to cut it.
No kidding. Speaking of apex predators, what about the killer whale, the orca? These are intelligent creatures that travel huge distances in the ocean, hunting and communicating in complex ways.
Exactly. Putting an orca in a tank, even a huge one, would be like keeping a human in a tiny room for their entire life. It's just not good for them, physically or mentally.
Yeah, that's a powerful image. All right, next on the list we have the hippopotamus. I always thought they were kind of cute in a chubby kind of way, but they're actually really dangerous.
Yeah, they might look peaceful hanging out in the water. But hippos are territorial and strong. They're responsible for more human deaths in Africa than any other large animal.
Well,
Their teeth can grow to over a foot long.
yeah, so not the best animal to share a pool with. So much for that image of a hippo and a bubble bath.
Definitely. And while we're on the subject of water creatures that don't make good pets, let's talk about alligators.
Oh yeah, alligators. They always seem so lazy just lying in the sun. But I know looks can be deceiving.
For sure. Alligators are ambush predators. They're capable of super fast strikes. They have really powerful jaws and can hold their breath for a long time. Not something you want in your backyard pond.
Right. Okay, so we've covered some of the more obvious no-nos when it comes to pets. But this list gets even more interesting when we go beyond the big scary predators.
Yeah, there are some animals on here that you might not think of as terrible pets. But when you look at their behavior and needs, it's clear they should stay in the wild.
Like kangaroos, for example. Who wouldn't want a kangaroo hopping around their yard?
Well, they might seem cute, but kangaroos are actually really powerful and can be unpredictable, especially when they feel threatened. Their strong legs aren't just for hopping. They can deliver a serious kick, and those sharp claws are nothing to mess with.
So those boxing matches you see online are real.
Oh, yeah. And it's not just the adults you gotta watch out for. Mother kangaroos are very protective of their babies and will defend them fiercely. You don't want to get caught between a mama kangaroo and her joey.
Noted. Okay, another surprising one on the list is the llama. I always thought they were just kind of goofy, like big sheep. What makes them so bad as pets?
Well, imagine this. You're trying to feed your pet llama, and it just doesn't feel like eating. So instead of refusing the food, it spits a mixture of saliva and partially digested food right in your face.
Oh, okay, that's gross.
Yeah.
I can see why they wouldn't be good pets.
Oh.
You know what? I think we have time for one more before we got to take a break.
All right, let's talk about the Kia parrot. This one isn't dangerous in the same way as a Komodo dragon or a hippo, but it can definitely wreck your house.
Yeah, I've heard stories about these parrots are like little feathered tornadoes.
Right. Pretty much, Kia parrots are native to New Zealand, and they're known for being intelligent and mischievous. They're super curious and love to explore, but that curiosity can turn destructive in a home.
So no leaving anything valuable out if you have a Kia parrot.
Exactly. They'll tear up anything they can get their beaks on. Furniture, clothes, electronics, you name it. And they're strong for their size.
So, yeah, while they might be cool creatures, Kia parrots are definitely not the best choice for a peaceful and organized home.
And on that note, I think it's time for a break. We'll be back soon to continue our deep dive into the world of unpetables.
Welcome back to The Deep Dive, where we're talking about all these animals that would make terrible pets.
Yeah, we've talked about some of the obvious ones, the big predators and the ones that are surprisingly destructive.
Right. But now things get a little more tricky, because now we're talking about animals that you could maybe keep as pets, but it really depends.
Yeah, and the important thing here is responsibility. These animals might not be dangerous, like a lion or a Komodo dragon, but they still have needs that you have to meet to keep them healthy.
So let's talk about one of those animals. Rats. I know they get a bad reputation, but I've heard they can actually be pretty smart and affectionate.
Rats are social animals, and they can bond with their humans.
Yeah.
They're also really adaptable and smart, which is why they're used in research a lot.
But having a rat as a pet isn't just about giving it a cage and some food, right?
No, definitely not. Rats need a big cage with lots of things to climb on and explore. They also need a variety of food, like fresh fruits and veggies, not just pellets.
And you got to remember that rats can get sick.
Yeah.
So you need to take them to the vet regularly.
Absolutely. Just like any other pet, owning a rat responsibly means giving them the right food, a good environment, and health care.
Okay, so rats can be good pets if you're willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
What about another one of those it depends animals? Bearded dragons, they seem to be getting more popular as pets.
They are, and there's a reason for that. Bearded dragons are pretty calm and low maintenance compared to other reptiles. They don't need a ton of space, and they're generally quiet.
But they still need a special environment, right?
Yeah, bearded dragons are from Australia, so they need a warm, dry place with UVB light so they can process calcium. They also need to eat mostly insects.
So even though they're a good choice for someone who wants a reptile that's not too much work, you still need to do your research and be ready to take care of them properly.
Exactly. You know, speaking of research, let's go back to some of those animals that were definitely on the no list. I think it's important to understand why some animals, even if they seem cool, are just not meant to be pets.
You're right. We've had fun talking about all the impractical and funny stuff, but there's a serious side to this too.
For sure. Like elephants, for example. They seem like gentle giants, but they're really smart and social animals with needs that you just can't meet in a house.
I remember reading that elephants in the wild walk for miles every day looking for food and hanging out with other elephants. It's hard to imagine giving them that in someone's backyard.
Yeah, and their size alone makes them impossible as pets. An adult elephant can weigh over 6 tons. Think about how much food they eat, the space they need, and the damage they could do if they got upset.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about it. So elephants are definitely a no. What about rhinos? They seem pretty chill, just eating grass all day.
That might be true in the wild. But rhinos are also super strong and can be territorial. Their horns, which can grow over 5 feet long, are used for defense and to show who's boss.
I bet those horns could really mess up a car or a house if a rhino got scared.
Oh, yeah. And while we're talking about animals with horns, we can't forget about monkeys. Some people think they're cute, but they can be really unpredictable and destructive as pets.
I've heard stories about monkeys getting loose in houses and causing total chaos.
Yeah,
Is that common?
it can happen. Monkeys are super agile and smart, and they're good at escaping. And once they're loose, they can cause all kinds of trouble because they're curious and mischievous.
And I bet their teeth and claws could do some damage if they felt trapped.
Yeah. And it's important to remember that monkeys are social animals. They have complex relationships and ways of communicating. Keeping them alone with humans can cause them to act out and get stressed.
So even though it might be tempting to have a pet monkey, it's not really fair to them. It's better to just admire them from a distance where they can be themselves.
I agree. Speaking of animals that are best admired from afar, let's talk about chimpanzees.
Chimpanzees.
Yeah.
They're our closest relatives, right? I've seen videos of them using tools and talking with sign language. It's incredible.
It is, but their intelligence and how close they are to humans genetically are exactly why they shouldn't be pets. People think that because chimps share so much of our DNA, they'll be easy to understand and take care of.
But that's not true at all, is it?
Nope. Chimpanzees are incredibly strong and agile, and they can be really unpredictable, especially when they grow up. Their social lives and communication are really complex, and they can get aggressive if they feel threatened or like their position is being challenged.
So no tea parties with chimps then?
Probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
And since we're talking about creatures that are best left alone, let's talk about grizzly bears.
Grizzly bears. I don't think anyone would actually try to have a grizzly bear as a pet, but they definitely belong on this list of unpetables.
Definitely, grizzly bears are at the top of the food chain with an amazing sense of smell, sharp claws, and powerful jaws. They can weigh over 1,000 pounds and stand up to 8 feet tall. They're not exactly housebroken.
And I can only imagine how hard it would be to feed them. I don't think a bowl of dog food would be enough.
No way. Grizzly bears eat all kinds of things like berries, roots, fish, and small animals. Trying to give them that kind of food at home would be almost impossible.
And not to mention super dangerous. Okay, so grizzly bears are a big no. What about something from the ocean? like a shark.
Sharks are really cool, but their size, their instincts to hunt, and their specific needs make them totally incompatible with living in a house.
I can't imagine finding a tank big enough for a great white shark.
And even if you could, feeding them would be a nightmare. Sharks are carnivores that need to eat live prey all the time. That's not something you can just buy at the pet store.
All right, so sharks are out. What about something smaller and not so scary, like a jellyfish?
Jellyfish are beautiful and interesting, but they're so delicate and need such specific water conditions that they're really hard to keep. They need a special tank with just the right water flow and salt levels.
And they're not exactly cuddly. I've heard their tentacles can sting really bad.
Yeah, they can. Jellyfish stings can be anything from a little annoying to super painful, and some can even kill you.
So, no jellyfish aquariums in the living room.
So.
Okay, what about something a little more well-fragrant?
Yes, skunks. They have that cool black and white look, but they're most famous for spraying a really bad smell when they feel threatened.
I've heard that smell can last for days.
It can. Skunk spray is super strong and hard to get out of clothes, furniture, even your skin.
And unless you really like bad smells that make your eyes water, I'd say stay away from skunks as pets.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Okay, we're almost at the end of our list of unpetables, but we still have a few more animals to talk about.
Yeah.
And trust me, they're just as fascinating and just as bad as pets as the ones we've talked about already.
So stay tuned as we keep going on our deep dive into the wild world of animals that should definitely not be kept as pets.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the unpetables. We've gone through a ton of animals, from big to small.
Yeah. And we've talked about why some animals just shouldn't be kept as pets.
Right. We still have a few more on the list. And the last ones might surprise you. Let's start with one that creeps me out just thinking about them. Bats.
Bats get a bad rap. They're associated with all sorts of scary stuff, but they're actually really important for the environment.
Yeah, I know they help pollinate plants and keep insect populations down.
Exactly. But even though they're important for nature, bats are not good pets. For one thing, they're nocturnal, so they're most active at night.
So if you had a pet bat, you'd be hearing them flying around all night.
Yep. And they need to live in special conditions, like dark, enclosed spaces that are similar to where they naturally live, like caves or hollow trees.
And you can't forget about the whole disease thing. Bats are known to carry rabies and other viruses that can make people sick.
Right. While the chances of getting rabies from a bat are pretty low, it's still a risk. And that's just one of the many reasons why it's best to leave bats alone.
So bats are out. What about something a bit more cuddly? Like an orangutan. They seem so peaceful and wise.
Orangutans are smart and gentle, but they're big, strong, and have complex social needs that just can't be met if they're kept as pets.
I remember reading that orangutans spend most of their time in trees.
Yeah, they have super long arms and strong grips that let them swing through the rainforest.
It's hard to imagine giving an orangutan that kind of space in a regular house.
And even if you could, they still need to socialize and have their emotional needs met.
I see. Orangutans are really smart and social. They form strong bonds with each other. They need to be around their own kind to be happy.
Exactly. Keeping an orangutan alone with humans would be bad for them.
Okay, so orangutans are off the list. Now, I know this next one was a bit of a weird one, but it did make it onto the list.
Yeah.
The mosquito.
I don't think anyone would actually want a mosquito as a pet. But they're a good example of why some creatures are just better off left alone.
And maybe even avoided.
Yeah, mosquitoes are annoying. They bite and they spread diseases like malaria, dengue fever, and Zika virus.
Just thinking about those itchy bites makes me want to grab some bug spray.
And those diseases are serious. They make millions of people sick every year.
So yeah, mosquitoes are definitely not pet material. Okay, we've talked about a lot of animals today, but now we're at the ultimate unpetable.
The one that takes the top spot, the king of terrible pets.
Drum roll, please. It's the Komodo dragon.
We mentioned them earlier, but it's worth repeating why these giant lizards are the worst possible pets.
They're like something out of a dinosaur movie.
They really are impressive. Komodo dragons are the largest lizards alive. They're top predators with venomous bites, sharp claws, and a powerful build.
They can grow to be over 10 feet long and weigh over 150 pounds. Can you imagine trying to potty train a Komodo dragon?
Or trying to take it for a walk. No leash would be strong enough.
And don't forget about that venomous bite. It's not just a painful bite. It's full of toxins that can make you really sick.
Yeah. So, while Komodo dragons are cool to see in the wild, they definitely don't belong in anyone's home.
Well, I think it's safe to say we've covered the whole range of unpetables in this deep dive. We had some laughs, we learned some stuff, and hopefully we got people thinking about how we interact with animals.
Yeah, the big takeaway is that being a responsible pet owner means more than just picking a cute animal. You have to understand what an animal needs and make sure you can give them a safe, healthy, and happy life.
And sometimes the best way to love an animal is to leave it alone.
Right. Let wild animals stay wild and choose a pet that fits your life and that you can really take care of.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. We hope you enjoyed exploring the unpetables with us,
And always keep thinking.
because there's always more to learn.